do that with salvia. I mean, you know.
No, not with salvia, but with the ayahuasca.
Yeah, you'd be vomiting.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm WillPWilson. This is the All Day Live show. This is July, mid-July, although it was the Bite of Seattle this last weekend. This is I think it is the 22nd, last weekend. And it was the Bite. We got about 3 minutes of that, but we're going to first start off with Don Darington talking about some very key issues here in the state of Washington on medical cannabis thing that's going on here. Very important that we start listening to each other in this community, especially when we're realizing that we're looking at a very large worldwide market. As you might want to know, we're trying to work on creating a means by which we create standards and ethics and things like that, but now it also goes down into taxation and financing. So the second part of this, after we listen to Don Darington, will be with David Belzer, and that's Canna Accounting here in Washington State. I hope you enjoyed this half hour with him. He's a brilliant financial analyst and accountant, so I hope he's also pioneering in this financial structuring and architecture in this new industry. So I hope you enjoy this. We'll follow with the, I think it's Daybreak Star Center this last weekend as well, and it was the National or Northwest National Combined Indian Powwow. I hope you enjoyed the last part of the show as well. I'm WillPWilson. If you want to send donations to help me out, $1 would help, $2 would help. Send it to AllDayLive at eBay, PayPal. You can go there and deposit money and help me out. It'd be great. I hope you can do that. I do need to pay for tapes and discs and things like that to keep this show going. It just can't go on nothing. Please help me out if you can. That's PayPal, eBay, and go to AllDayLive, the AllDayLive account. I hope you can help me out. Thank you. I'm WillPWilson. Thank you. Hi, Don Darington. This is Don.
Good afternoon. So, we're here today at Choice Wellness Center at 8600 Aurora in Seattle. We are Seattle's perhaps and probably only 100% organic access point. Today, a lot of what we're talking about has to do with the mechanics of running a cannabis business in this very murky legal state that we're in right now with the federal still insisting upon keeping this plant on Schedule 1, which it never should have been to begin with, and the states progressing and moving along in terms of not only medical cannabis, but what they are calling recreational cannabis. I prefer to call it the casual use, because I truly believe that virtually all use of cannabis is medical. It certainly, even if that's not the intent of the person, what it does is medical, prophylactically as well as curatively. So, one of the big issues and problems that we have in this industry right now, and I'm sure they have the same issues in Colorado, and the same issues in many of the states, and that is that because of it being on Schedule 1 and because of anti-drug legislation that was established in the 70s, laws that were never intended to be applied to the cannabis market are being applied to the cannabis market, most notably 280E, which is the thing that's kind of making everybody crazy. And because what that is, it does not allow cannabis businesses to conduct business as a regular business. It does not allow normal business expenses like staff expenses. So if you have a bud tender, if you have a shop that the only thing you are doing is selling marijuana, then you cannot deduct any of the normal business expenses that are affiliated with staff and that sort of thing, since the feds consider selling marijuana to be a federal crime. They will not allow a deduction on your taxes for those normal business expense. It puts a tremendous burden on the shopkeepers, if you will. Once the Colorado and Washington implement, if the feds allow them to do that, their version of so-called legalization, which of course is not legalization at all, it merely just removes some of the more minor penalties for dealing with cannabis. Once those rules are put into place, once that is happening, what we are going to find is a huge mess. One of Washington's, in the initiative itself, is stated that part of the purpose and the goal is to lower the price of cannabis for people. You can't do that if you cannot deduct normal business expenses. In point of fact, it'll probably triple the cost of cannabis. So we have to really look at that. We really are at a point where there really is no solution other than the federal government saying, okay, we had a failed experiment, we're done, and remove cannabis from the schedule at all. That's what really needs to happen right now. So I would encourage anybody and everybody who is watching this program to pick up their phone, to pick up their computer, to write, to call to all of their legislators, their state representatives, their state senators, their federal representatives, and their federal senators, and explain it to them, because they don't know. They're not educated. They need to know that this is our medicine, this is what keeps us alive, this is what improves the quality of our lives, and we need to have this accessible and affordable, and we need to be conducted just like any other business. Stores that dispense cannabis, whether it's medically or casually, should not be taxed at any rate, certainly not the ones that are medical, should not be taxed at any rate that it's in excess of what is taxed to Bartels, which is 1.8% of sales. I have no problem with that whatsoever. The very fact that there are so many people who want to tax medical cannabis is also another big issue. And my contention is the day that Viagra is taxed is the day that I will be willing to sit at the table to discuss taxing my medicine, which has saved my life. Viagra has never saved anybody's life. Probably has put a few people's life in risk if you really want to look at the reality of the situation. So, actually there have been people who have died from taking Viagra. No one has ever died from taking cannabis. So we really need to look at the financial structure. We have to get the feds on board. We have to be able to work with banks. If the world does not want this to be a criminal enterprise, then stop treating us like criminals and let us behave like honest, regular business people, which many of us are. Thank you.
8600 Aurora.
8600 Aurora Choice Wellness Center. All organic, always organic, all about the patients. Truly, patients helping patients, which is what I think the legislature intended in the first place.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Which one you want to open with? This one?
I think can attack.
Hey, it's AllDayLive. This is a thing about being alive. Again, I've mentioned that before. I am WillPWilson, the producer of AllDayLive. Thank you for watching. You're probably seeing us from Seattle because that's where we're being seen from. And we've covered a lot of stuff this last few months about the cannabis industry ease, meaning different forms of things, and there's no ease to that. There's a lot of work involved, a lot of things nobody knows. Let's say discovery. What's that mean? I mean, how do you know what you're supposed to do if you don't have any way of doing it because you don't know? I think that's one way of looking at it, or not seeing it because you haven't done it yet. But anyway, this is the AllDayLive show. We've covered a lot of things. I just got this last few weeks, and this is July 18, 2013, by the way. We are here in Seattle, and we're taking advantage of a studio setting today because I'm trying to help educate all of us in the state. The state has something on its agenda, whether they like it or not. The voters voted in I-502, Allison Holcomb. She's the author of it. And then we have Hillary Bricken of the Canna Law Group here in Seattle, and they've been doing quite a bit to try to get people in the industry that are creating commerce, commercial businesses. What kind of things? There's more than just one business. You got to grow, you got to sell, you got to process, you got to package, you got to label, you got to transport. It gets big. It gets bigger. And so we're covering different things, getting the people who have volunteered or let's say put themselves into this, which was David Belzer. So hang on there for a second. David Belzer, David C. Belzer. And we're going to bring up, as we got in one of his websites here, his phone number is also there if you want to write that down. But we're going to bring up a great deal of information. I got his business cards, not that that matters, but we've got his websites in the background. It's going to be interesting. Let me give you a rundown on what David's all about. David's working with several publishers here, and while I'm sitting here talking, why look at me? Let's look at David. David, good to see you.
Hi.
Yeah, and this is David Belzer. David, from the standpoint of, let's say we got your website in the background. Oops, I got to get my name off of there. And there we are, David Belzer, specializing in cannabis industry development, accounting, businesses. That's something that is, like we mentioned as you were on my last week's program, David, that let's say no one understands what the means of accounting for a business that's never been here before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of a new thing. So it's an exploratory thing, probably new forms of accounting, new forms of management. Am I wrong? I mean,
You're half right.
okay. Well, let's find the other half. Let's find out where we're going. I don't think there's going to be a half in this. This event's going to go all the way through many, many Super Bowls. But go ahead. Let's start off as far as specializing in a business, and you're going to help advise them as far as how or where do they approach that. They don't know anything. They're a blank slate. This has never been done before. It's all new, and especially getting licensing, you know, whatever. And so, in the same sense, let's look at the standpoint that we can put together a project or an accounting project that keeps things in proper management as far as what this all is about, right?
Yes.
So, if we're going to start, where do you start? What do you tell a client?
Well, the first thing you want to know is how to structure their business. And that is essential in the, especially in the tax aspects.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different advice going around about how a cannabis or marijuana entrepreneur should structure his business. And different lawyers are giving different advice. But there's several key issues that go to that. And some of it has to do with complying with federal tax law, which is a special set of rules for the cannabis business. There's also the problem or the question of how to compensate the principals or might say the stakeholders or the shareholders in the business. Those are the two things, and then management of the operations is another. Seems like people are coming from one side of the business or the other. They come out of the traditional business and they want to get into the marijuana business using their traditional business knowledge, but they don't know anything about marijuana. And then there's people from the marijuana background that have run their own small businesses now want to become legitimate operators, and they don't have the knowledge for that. So it's half of each coming together to form that combined knowledge.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Suppose I am somebody who's already involved in the industry
Oh,
somehow.
by this way, this is our audience. We have an audience here today, just so everybody knows. So we're asking for comments from the audience. Thanks. Thank you, audience.
Yes, my name is Audience. Anyway, suppose I'm already in the business and I've already been running afoul of the law for many years, and I want to switch over to legitimate. How do I make the transition? Because all my business so far has been below board, and it has to come above board somehow. But if it comes above board all at once, isn't that essentially inviting a visitation from the IRS or some other agency?
Those are very good questions, and you're absolutely right about that. Now, yeah, I've been advised by several of my the criminal attorneys that I've talked to in town here are advising that you not make any reference to your prior illegal activities in your effort to go above ground, that you start afresh and you start a new business and start legitimately from the beginning and operate that way, making no reference to your prior illegal activities. Then I would advise that as well. It's been pointed out that if you make reference to your prior activities, then you are incriminating yourself, and you could run the risk of prosecution.
Now, suppose people are attracted to the industry for the sake of the new entrepreneur opportunities, but they don't really know the industry. Have you found that most of what they need to know about business is already covered, and they just need to know about this specific industry, or do they have to learn everything from the beginning?
I think a lot of it's already covered in other industries, although there's certainly some special knowledge that needs to be obtained about marijuana and the processing and consumption of marijuana, which would be unique from normal business knowledge that you might have in another business. But a lot of the same things that occur in other business will occur in the marijuana business. For instance, you're going to have to keep track of your production costs, and that is a special accounting function that is separate from your operational accounting. And then the new rules under I-502 require very strict accounting for waste and for loss when it's harvest, and they want to track from seedling to sale. So all that is going to require specific identification in the accounting system.
Have you seen more interest in the medical side or in the recreational side?
Again, an interesting question, because a lot of entrepreneurs are starting out wanting to get into the recreational business, but they find that the regulations are so burdensome that they think they'd like to start out as a medical business and then maybe transition over later into the commercial marijuana business.
So,
Go ahead.
so what would you say are the differences tax-wise between the medical side and the recreational side?
Well, tax-wise, well, speaking in federal terms, there's no difference. But in the state, they have a very thorough system of taxing the commercial side at a 25% per level excise tax. So at every level, the grower, the processor, and the retail seller have to pay a 25% tax at each level. So that's pretty heavy taxing for the commercial side. Now, the thought behind that on the liquor board side is that, well, the consumption, the demand from the general public will support that and will support higher prices. So that's the theory.
So do you suspect at all that that might actually just cause the black market to remain? I mean, there's a lot of people who can they look at 50 or 75% tax and think, well, heck, the guy down the street from me doesn't charge me all that tax and it's just as good. I think it's kind of shooting themselves in the foot on that.
Yes, and that is a potentiality, although, again, the liquor board is saying, well, the public is going to get a product that is tested, measured, they have assurance of quality, assurance of quality that they would not get in the black market. So they're hoping that the public will turn to the legitimate market instead of the black market for that reason.
Well, as far as all the different sectors, David, I was going to mention that if we're dealing with different sectors, meaning different tax sectors, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, you are. You're correct.
And so, how do you define that?
The tax sectors. Well, there's the federal versus the state at this point. I mean, the federal, there's a special rule which affects the marijuana business, which is Code Section 280E, the notorious code section which disallows all operating expenses for a business which is involved in the trafficking of controlled substances, and marijuana is still a controlled substance. So marijuana business operators are not allowed to deduct normal operating expenses. So that is a huge concern. And numerous methods and devices are being created now by accountants and attorneys to circumvent that.
Now, have you seen any interest in industrial hemp as opposed to recreational or medicinal cannabis?
Yeah, there's a revived interest in, although the hemp, which is not marijuana, meaning it doesn't have enough
THC?
Well, THC, or what you might say the intoxicating compounds in marijuana. They're using it to create oil, which is used for healing, which doesn't have THC. It has another chemical in it, which is found in the marijuana plant. I think it's CBD, which is used for treating other things. So there's been a revived interest in growing hemp for the purpose of CBD, making CBD.
Okay, but how about the industrial side? Do you know, does the 25% tax at every stage. Do you know if that applies to industrial? Because, and actually, I'm not sure if even industrial is addressed. I know recreational seems like it would encompass industrial, but is that the case?
It's not. The only kind of marijuana that is covered under the I-502 is marijuana containing less than 0.3% THC. So they're not even interested in regulating any such product.
Really interesting. So in a same sense, what we're looking at is nobody even knows the roadmap, do they?
No.
Yeah.
No, they're still working on it. You know, the liquor board's still working on the rules, and they had their second round of draft rules, and so they're still looking for comments.
They need volunteers in a sense because I mean this is a gigantic, this is huge, and it's right in your lap. And your tax professionals don't even have a defined way to know how to address it yet. It's totally right.
True, although there've been a couple of court cases which give us some guidance, very little guidance. And in California, where medical marijuana is prolific, they've had a couple of key cases down there. One pertains to cost of goods sold. The tax court ruled that cost of goods sold would be deductible.
Yeah.
Another court, the tax court, ruled that non-cannabis operation expenses can be deducted. So if you're running a part cannabis, non-cannabis business, then the non-cannabis operating expenses can be deducted. So those are trying to be exploited now by tax advisors to basically circumvent the 280E law.
Okay, got 5 minutes.
Okay, so let's say in efforts to circumvent 280E, somebody has more than one business and operates a second business out of the same place where they have their cannabis business. Mm-hmm. Would their expenses then be deductible from the other business? Or,
yes.
Or would the cannabis business interfere?
No, it would be all the business expenses relating to the other business would be deductible. There's a kind of a tendency now to create two companies when you have a cannabis or marijuana business. Well, cannabis being the medical side, where you have a nonprofit organization running the operations, and then you have a LLC which owns the assets, and that seems to be a common structuring.
Now, what kind of investors would you say are attracted to the business? Are we talking people interested in providing product, or real estate developers, or what?
You know, the people that I'm seeing that are interested in investing are people who have been successful in other businesses and have a lot of money and want to invest, and they want to invest in an emerging industry, and they see an opportunity here, basically.
So what sort of financial upside do you see for cannabis in the state of Washington? How big, dollar-wise, do you suppose this industry is going to get?
Well, I don't have any way of answering that, but
well, how much business do you expect to get from the cannabis boom?
well, I don't know how. I don't really know how to answer.
That's
that.
not a very good question.
Well,
either.
but it's interesting that what you're doing is you're covering things that it's so overwhelming. It's no way you could possibly answer it, but at least we got to start thinking about it, right, David?
Yes, and you know, the liquor board did talk about some of those things at a seminar I went to the other day. They were mentioning that they basically had no way of projecting those numbers either. That their initial estimate, they've now multiplied the initial estimate by tenfold. So as far as growth of the market.
Yeah.
And could you tell me, do you suppose some of the legislation you're having to deal with and the bureaucracy, do you suppose you're laying groundwork for industrial hemp to come down the road?
You got to account for it, right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well,
Right.
yeah, there's going to be certainly. Well, I'll tell you what. There's going to be certainly an increase in what you call industrial hemp, and there's going to be a need for business operations of that.
Well, yes,
that
but you
type of
see,
business.
the question is, because everything hemp is lumped in together. You're not just talking medicine, you're not talking recreational, but also industrial, which means, you know, being able to produce things, use it for fuel and things like this.
Yeah.
That's really where the economy is going to take off once you have freedom to use it in that way. So I expect that because it's a schedule and substance all the way around, people are going to be looking at the cases that come down based on the work that you're doing and decide some industrial decisions down the road based on that.
Yeah, good point. I mean, again, the state is not is not intending to regulate industrial hemp, and also they want to keep the industrial hemp grows separate from the medicinal or the commercial grows because of the cross-pollination potential. So yeah, I mean, growing hemp, industrial hemp, will have the same accounting and tax problems as medical or commercial marijuana production.
Do you know of anybody out there trying to do the medical side and the recreational side at the same time, or does everybody want to keep it separate?
Well, yeah, nobody's really doing the recreational yet because the licenses haven't been issued. But a lot of people who do medical want to switch over to recreational businesses, and a lot of people who started out thinking about getting into the recreational business have decided to go into the medical business first, at least, or rather than recreational, because of the regulatory restrictions that is on the commercial.
How much bigger would you say the burden regulatory-wise is on the commercial as opposed to the medical?
All versus nothing. I mean, there's virtually no regulation on the medical in the medical cannabis industry in this state that I can see.
Really, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And
now,
there's 46 pages of proposed regulations for the commercial marijuana business.
Now, it's my understanding that medicine in this state is not supposed to be taxed at all. Have you seen that that's the case with medical marijuana?
The position of the Department of Revenue is that a marijuana transaction is a taxable sale and is subject to sales tax.
Dave, real quick, David, I was going to mention, we do have about 9 more minutes in this segment, so I was going to mention, what is it that if I'm going to start with contacting you, okay, I get a hold of you, let's say I want to do a dispensary, and I also want to set up several growing operations. I'm in a little town here in Washington State, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to start for the accounting thing. Well, that's part of it. But it isn't just accounting, it's business projection. Meaning, so you're, in a sense, plus you're working with a group of people in the field of cannabis law, this new thing, and also cannabis business planning, let alone cannabis legislation.
Yes.
So I'm in the little town, I'm going to call you up, and I said, what would you recommend? Where do you start off that future client? What do you do? How do you do it?
Well, I'd ask them what they want to do, first, what their aspirations are. Growing or processing or retail, those are the 3 areas.
Yeah.
And generally they express an interest in one of those.
Right.
And generally I'd say we'd probably ought to meet, and go through some details,
Right.
And basically the organization of the business and the assets that they're going to need, how much cash they're going to need to operate, working capital, and that sort of thing. And generally I like to do a business plan, which includes a 12-month, month-by-month cash flow projection. That way they can know what they're going to need and when in terms of cash input.
Right.
Also capital budget, so they know how much assets they have to purchase going in. And those two kind of go together because you can start out with fewer assets, and as you get cash flow, you can buy the assets later. So that is very important. Otherwise, you're going to be broke before you get started.
Let's say, for example, let's say I've just set up my dispensary. I've been in business for about a year, and let's say I got to make payroll taxes, and I'm not quite doing as much business as I wanted to do. What kind of strategy can I do to reconstruct my way to pay my payroll taxes that I've fallen behind on expenses? A lot more was involved. Had a lot to do. You got to have supply, so you got to have growers. You got to do it. So mostly got to do it yourself. So there's a lot involved. So it's growing from the growing to the processing to make the oils, the extracts. And then I'm going to have people maybe running my dispensary, 5 people maybe. And let's say all my expenses in packaging, processing, everything like that. But I have not kept on their payroll taxes. And it comes around accounting season. I mean, I'm sure this is a question that a lot of people are going to think about in the future because of all the different ways, meaning new strategic ways to juggle this. Am I right to kind of rotate it around? Am I wrong?
You don't need new strategic ways. There's plenty of old strategic ways. But regarding that question about payroll taxes, if an operator falls behind making payroll tax deposits, they can negotiate a payment agreement with the IRS very simply by paying their current taxes and then working with the IRS on the back taxes on a payment plan. So that's very simple. But if they fall too far behind where they can't catch up, then my advice to them is to close the business down and start up another one.
Really?
Yeah. And then the owner of the business will be responsible for those payroll taxes which should have been withheld from people's checks.
Yeah.
But there will be no liability for the employer share or for the penalties and interest. So that will be a huge savings.
But let's say, for example, I am a person that is looking at different types of corporate business structures. Let's say I'm going to have a growing business, I'm going to have a transport business, a delivery business, maybe even a medical service business, because people that's involved with like the geriatric centers and potentially 600,000 potential clients and patients in the state. I don't think I'm underestimating. And so there's more involved. I may have 5 or 6 businesses, not just one. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, what's
No,
your
that's
thoughts?
good. No,
I
you
mean,
could
would
very
that
well.
be like, where would you start there?
Well, you'd have to organize them separately. You know, each business would be organized separately. And now the liquor board has made, there's rules saying you can't be on the commercial side, you can't be a grower or a processor and a retailer. You can be a grower and a processor,
Right.
but not a retailer.
So in a sense, what we're looking at is you're not in violation if you own different companies to do each one, but you can't do it under the same company roof.
That's the way
right?
I understand it.
Let me see if I understand it correctly. What you're saying is that you can't be completely vertically integrated. You can't go from seed to retail.
You're correct.
And it looks to me like the reason for that is to make sure that the state gets at least one 25% cut. Because if I understand it correctly, if you do have several businesses of your own involved, you'd have to charge yourself a 25% tax every time you did something new with the product, correct?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I think they're saying that their motives are basically to protect the consumers. I don't quite understand that.
I don't quite
rationale.
understand that because in my opinion, if one person has control of it from seed to retailer, quality plants and whatnot.
Yes. Well, I think what's going to happen is the commercial side is going to go to the bigger boys, and the medical side will remain in the hands of the mom and pop entrepreneurs. That's the way I see it.
So in a sense, you're looking at possibly kind of commercial and mom and pop. It's
Yeah.
two different worlds.
Yes.
That's quite the. That's really quite the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, they're quite a bit different. They're entirely different. They really have no relation to each other at all.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting phenomena. Do you think that they're going to have to start training this in the business schools here locally? I mean, it's a whole new phenomenon. I mentioned 3 years ago that legal media journalism is going to cover different aspects of the way that law will be practiced, and also, let's say, in the way it's done in the court system, a whole other thing going on. I mean, am I wrong? I mean,
Sounds right to me.
yeah. So you're in the middle of it too. It's all accounting too.
I think I'm on the edge here.
Yeah, you sure are. And we've got 3 minutes left. And we're going to put all your contact information up here, which is right here, 206-224-3545.
Thank you.
Starting a cannabis business in Washington, contact David Belzer.
Very
and then,
good.
David, I guess I got your email up there, and there's more information. David, in this last few minutes, what kind of thing do you want to mention to the public, to your future clients?
Get a good attorney.
Okay.
Get a good accountant.
You know one? You do?
Well, yes, I know several. I
So
know
you-
pretty much every attorney in this town that's in this field, I think.
So you've got, basically, your people are joining forces.
Yes, they have to. Yeah.
And
Nobody knows
audience,
it all.
what's your last statement?
I have one last question, actually. Suppose I wanted to get in the business and all I wanted to do is provide
Hold the mic.
clones that I've produced.
Yeah, I believe if you're going to sell it to a processor, there would be a tax. But if you're going to sell it to another grower, I believe there would be no tax in that case. And I'm just going by what the liquor board said at the last seminar I went to.
That's great because I would like to practice this thing called distributed agriculture, where I'm just handing out some clones to people who can't provide for themselves any other way. And I would hate for there to be a 25% tax on something like that.
David,
Me too.
thank you. Thank you very much. I'm greatly honored to have you here today.
My pleasure.
And again, this is the information below if people want to get a hold of David. You're based out of Seattle.
Yes.
And I've got this information here, which is your phone number and your email, which is davidbelzer@gmail.com. And we got your websites up in the background, right?
I believe it's Dave Belzer. Is that Dave Belzer?
Is it David?
It should be Dave Belzer at gmail.com.
It is Dave
There we go.
Belzer,
Thank
yeah.
you.
But David is the King David thing, and I have the highest respect for that.
Thank you.
You know, and I really appreciate this. I hope to get on. Maybe we can do some more TV series. Maybe even work with the Weekly on doing a regular broadcast in this area. Don't you think it's needed? I really do think
It'd
so.
be delightful.
Yeah, I agree. I'm greatly honored again. Give me a couple website addresses.
Oh, we have canatax.com. We have canaccountant.com. And we have mjlicensing.org. And my tax website is belzertax.com.
What about Canalube?
I
Excellent.
don't know about that.
Hey, thank you very much, David. And then you're going to be on the All Day Live show. I'm WillPWilson, and I appreciate everybody watching. And I'm the producer, and you can get a hold of me. Of course, get a hold of David. Don't get a hold of me. David, thank you very much. And this is the All Day Live show, and I hope we're helping you. David, do you think we're helping them?
I'm very pleased. Thank you.
I mean, we're all here just simply because we're trying to help, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
a help thing. This is
Well-
kind of a Dave Belzer helpline.
Okay. Well,
that-
we're here
is
to
it-
help people, that's for sure.
Yes. David, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, audience. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody. And that's the go right there. We'll see you on the next segment. So, everybody, thank you for watching All Day Live. I'm WillPWilson, the producer of All Day Live, and thank you for watching. Got ideas? Get a hold of us. We're going to have more programs, David, right?
Oh, I'd be pleased.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
I feel a relief out there in the audience already.
Oh, good.
We'll see.
I'm
Good.
glad.
Pasta la pizza.
Awesome.
Thank
See you next week. Thank you, everybody. Which one do you want to open it with? This one?
I think Canatax.
Okay. This is All Day Live. I'm WillPWilson. We're at the Bite of Seattle, July 21st, 2013. As you can see, there's not much room here to be able to tell you that I'm here. But I am WillPWilson. This is the All Day Live show. Thanks for watching. And as you can see, it's 5 o'clock already here on Sunday. and it's packed, and that's the Space Needle behind me. That's about the only room to find here. I don't think there is any more room. But thanks for watching. We'll get on to the next segment. Thank you for watching All Day Live. Thank you.
Honor our family and our people for the service and I want you to set up with us, and I'll give it to them when they're not.
Hold this for me. Just point.
Sure.
Hi, I'm WillPWilson, the producer of All Day Live, and I have Herb. He's the producer of, what's the name of the show?
Criminal Spirituality.
Okay, fine. But anyway, we're here today at Daybreak Star Center, and there's our other party right here. We're all crew. But anyway, I am WillPWilson. This is All Day Live. And behind me is the powwow. Basically, as you got just a rundown.
All right,
It's just started, and today's the 20th of July, 2013. So we're here over at Old Ford Lot. I'll shut up. Thanks. You are?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, world.
Oh my God.
It's good to see you. Great to be at the powwow. This is
He's lost his Skittles, everybody.
Yes, it's quite possible. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
We're going to get some fried bread later. It's
Oh my
gonna be
goodness.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Right now he is fried bread.
awesome. That's quite possible.
This afternoon, so
Oh my goodness,
that's
look at
gonna
that.
happen, and then later on we're gonna have other special.
Look at this beautiful turquoise here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. It is amazing.
Right at 1 o'clock there, dancers, right at 1 o'clock, so. And also, veterans, you are gonna be.
Oh my goodness.
Veterans, who they can mention.
Okay. Okay, this is the program. What's the program?
So I'm Colleen Echohawk. I work for Partnerships for Native Health at the University of Washington. We do research and we do outreach in Indian country around health. So we do things around diabetes, we do heart disease, we do a lot of cancer prevention and cancer research. In Indian country, we serve in a large 8-state region. We also work with and partner with other groups in Oklahoma, university research groups in Oklahoma. We're handing out today packets of bean soup. We're just trying to remind people that you can eat really healthy and on a budget. We know that beans have really great stuff in them. They're superfood, and you can reduce your risk of cancer potentially by making sure that you eat beans. We have black beans, pinto beans, red beans, white beans, and it's just a fun way to encourage people to eat healthy.
Pretty good. And this is some of the literature right here, right?
Right.
Okay, that you provide. And this is like Northwest or just nationwide?
Well, we serve mostly the Northwest, but we also do some things out in like with some of our universities that we partner with. But we
Right.
serve a lot of people here in the Northwest. We like to remind people that you can make healthy choices and prevent cancer
Okay.
by choosing not to smoke and by choosing to eat healthy and to exercise.
How do they find out more websites?
Yeah, so we're at p4nh.org is our website.
Do you have
We're
is
also
it
on
printed up somewhere?
let's see.
Is that it right
I
there?
have it here. On this little piece of paper,
Okay.
p4nh.org. Then we're
Okay.
also at Partnerships for Native Health
Yeah.
and Native People for Cancer Control on Facebook. Native People for Cancer Control is more about prevention. So we do a lot of stuff every day about
Yeah.
ways that you can prevent disease, especially cancer. And then Partnerships for Native Health is more kind of like we focus a little bit more on the research side. We have some health focus and just generally how we can support Indian country.
And this is kind of like, wait, go to these websites right here.
Right.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, real good. And today's the 20th of July 2013.
Yes, sir.
We're at Daybreak Star Center, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the national powwows, right?
This is one of the biggest powwows in the Northwest.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really an awesome, fun one, and we're really glad that they were able to bring it back again this year.
And your name again?
Colleen Echohawk with Partnerships for Native Health.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great weekend.
Yeah, you too. And so
Yeah.
I'll look you up somewhere.
Sure. The
Maybe
shows
we'll
are archived online, so you can go watch them.
Nice.
And this will probably what does the world need to know about? This is the program right here, right? Right? Is that's it right there, right?
Right.
Right.
That's it right there.
What do you think? What would anybody would tell me?
Well, we're the Seattle Indian Health Board. We've been established since 1970, and we see a lot of natives. We see a lot of homeless patients.
Okay.
We're also community, so we see within the community.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm WillPWilson. The shows are all. Can you explain to me what the First People Center is all about, sort of, real quick? I do AllDayLive here at Public Access.
Awesome. I'm the director of the First
Oh, you
People
are?
Center. Yeah.
Okay, just go ahead.
Okay. I'm Lena. I'm the director of the First People Center. We
Okay.
are a grassroots community organizing organization.
Okay.
Our grand opening was in December.
Okay.
And we've been operating under the Native Student and Family Wellness Initiative for the last 5 years.
Okay.
What we are is we are a resource and a partner to other community organizations, for example, United Indians, Seattle Indian Health Board, Chief Seattle Club, Duwamish. To the tribes, we work with primarily at this point high school students.
Yep.
On all different types of issues: politicism, activism, artful activism, science, education, culture, identity, the question of invisibility, and we refer them. We connect with other organizations and hold speaker series, just as an example of one thing. We also bring students to, for example, down to Puyallup to work with the elders, storytellers. We have them come in. We have lots of artists come in. So we're busy.
Yeah, I bet.
So the way that we're building a database. So we're having people. We're doing a huge drawing where we just ask people to write down their contact information, and we do the drawing, and they get a highlighted, this is who we are. And I'm also this year introducing our new Title VII program manager for the Highline School District, who is Sarah.
Sarah, that's
Sarah?
you, Sarah, right?
Hi.
And she's the new Indian Education Program Manager for the Highline School District. What's really different, a lot of school districts are looking at the way that she got hired, because the First People Center was actually the key player in the hiring process, which is very, very different than any other school districts. So, and it was very inclusive.
Yeah.
So,
What's the websites?
First Peoples, plurals with an S, .com. And then we're First Peoples on Facebook. We have a blog. The phone number is 206-290-9734. We're located at Big Picture High School in Darien. And this year we're going to be really big. So
Email.
our email is firstpeoples@gmail.com.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then this is some of the literature right here.
Oh yeah, these are some of the things that we just share with students and families. A lot of them come in with the identity issue. So we have elders come in and work with students on the Yakima language. And so this is like a cheat sheet. They get used to seeing them.
Okay.
They pick their favorite words, and you find them using them all over.
Right.
A talking circle is a style that we use. We work with Big Picture High School in a restorative justice process, and we do talking circle style. We smudge. We do a lot of smudging. So we have something here. We have something on communication styles and traditional Native values. And introduction to smudging. What is it? We introduce them over here. We have, we introduce them to, by the way, these were centerpieces that were made for a community engagement process with the superintendent of Highline School District regarding Indian Ed specific. And why it's different than regular ed, it being a treaty right. So these were the centerpieces, and these were raffled off, so we'll be raffling off some of these. We introduce families and students into sage and what it's used for, the significance of it, the sweetgrass, and the whole process of smudging. We don't force them to do it, we just, you know, and then when they don't self-identify, we ask them the question of why don't you self-identify?
Yeah, interesting. And the Treaty of Point Elliott, real quick.
Oh yeah. We are on Duwamish land. So whenever we gather together in any community gatherings or our students, we're teaching them anything, the first thing that we do is make sure that they understand the land that they're on and the ancestors, and we give thanks for that. And we teach them this. So all of our students get to know about this treaty.
Right here.
Yes.
That's the Treaty of Point Elliott. Interesting.
And this is a copy of the entire treaty, which has not been kept, of course.
Yeah.
You know, but we do have the students, you know, try as best they can to, you know, get very familiar with it. We also have interns, and they do things like traditional Native games. So that would be like this, the cross.
Right.
And then we have cultural research, interns, language. We're introducing language into the high schools for credit. It's proficiency credits, which is difficult with indigenous languages because there's not written, and for proficiency you have to be able to speak it, understand it, read it, and write it. And in the indigenous languages, there's not the written evaluation tool. So how do we do that? How do we do that evaluation for proficiency so for the students to be able to gain that credit? So lots going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bless you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Sometime we'll do some more, have you do some more broadcasts. We'll do some more stuff. Just let me know. Sounds good.
Firstpeoples.com.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Here we go. Veterans in the audience, and those of you that are in regalia also, to come on up, both men and women, if you could kindly help us out here. We are doing an honor. Washington State just passed a legislation here several weeks ago honoring the return of the Southeast Asia veterans, Vietnam veterans. So long overdue, only 40 years, but it was done. So we have any additional veterans in the audience, but we have an honor guard here from Muckleshoot that has come here today to honor us with their presence. And the rest of you dancers, if we could kind of get some cooperation here and get you over there. The flag of all indigenous people clear around the world, the Eagle staff, and the colors of the United States of America, the Canadian flag, and the MIA POW flag, and flags of all of the branches as they present themselves this afternoon as we are honoring the veterans. If you can kindly rise in respect for especially those that paid the supreme sacrifice on behalf of you and I. Years of about 5-6 generations of singers, and so they're here this weekend. Honor us with being the host for 2013. Okay, second session, 2013 Seafair. Daybreak Star Celebration is happening. And thank you there, Muckleshoot, Honor Guard. Captain their Eagle Staff, Mr. Joe Lewis, a veteran of the Air Force. American flag, Warren Goldie, veteran of the Army. And the Canadian flag, Jerry Potter, Army veteran. POW MIA flag, Sidney Williams, Army veteran. Intertribal Warrior Society flag, Art Lopez, Army veteran. Washington State flag, Mark Sisson, Navy veteran. Muckleshoot Tribal flag, Jesse McDaniel, Navy veteran. And the Chippewa flag, Daryl Richard, National Guard, and the rest of the veterans as they come on around behind the colors, and directly behind them, the headman dancer, Mr. Jason Sakona, and the head woman dancer, Gina Sakona, being followed by royalties and all that everybody talks about is the princess for the Daybreak Star. And Lennox Dupree is Little Miss Cheyenne River. And Indigenous nations here, not only in Washington State, but as well other states and up in Big Canada. Oh-ha, oh-ha. Red Bull on the horn. Red Bull. Oh-ha, oh-ha.